Germ Griffin recording an archive. Germ Griffin recording an archive. Will your infant survive mRNA vaccination? Will your infant survive mRNA vaccination? And not only the vaccination of the infants, but what's going to happen to the infants that are sucking the breasts of the vaccinated women. My name is Brother Germ Griffin, and yes, I'm a citizen researcher, as you call it, and just someone that like exposing stuff. Here is my platform, Germ.Griffin, Germ.Griffin. Always a good time at Germ.Griffin. I'm also the co-host of World of Controversy Podcast. World of Controversy Podcast. Of course, you can find that at WOC_pod and at WOC_podcast. I'm super excited. We got season 4 of World of Controversy Podcast on the way. And right now you're tuned into Germ Griffin Recordings Archive. Will your infant survive mRNA? Well, a lot of the experts don't even know. And today I'm about to break down how I know for sure that the vaccine was supposed to kill children and or infants and make sure people do not have children. Period. It's not even up for debate. There was a time I had to question it, but now we know for sure here in the, 2022? It's 2022. I've been researching COVID-19 since about December, November of 2020. And now it's October 2022, and a lot of things I've said have come to fruition. I got some notes. We'll be talking about some really important articles that I don't think the mainstream media wanted you to hear. And yeah, it's literally just that simple. Infants on mRNA vaccines. mRNA vaccines. So what is an mRNA vaccine and how the heck did it get into your infants' bodies? Well, we'll be talking about that here on Germ.Griffin. If you aren't following me on Twitter, is Germ Twix. If you are not following me on Instagram, is Germ.Griffin. Germ Griffin and Germ Twix. I want to talk about what people just took and what we just seen as in the pandemic, because supposedly this joint is coming to a close. Today is a clarification on what the next generation will look like because of the pandemic we just went through. And 2021 was indeed one of the biggest, largest eugenics operations ever to proceed out of the elites and the black nobility. Today I want to talk about lipid nanoparticles, and I want to talk about a drug that actually foretold that there was going to be some crap in some breast milk because of the technology we got today. Lipid nanoparticles, for everybody who took the vaccine and don't know, or even for the people who didn't take the vaccine, part of the vaccine, whatever. Lipid nanoparticles are small particles, okay? Now that's the first thing. They're really small particles that make an envelope that hold the mRNA of the spike protein of SARS-CoV-2. Now that's how they got it into your bodies. Pretty much a lipid nanoparticle is a small fatty substance, a small fatty ball. This is how they were able to get RNA or mRNA into your body. Your body, your cells would have normally destroyed whatever was coming into its body foreign. Okay, including RNA, mRNA from COVID, SARS-CoV-2. So they knew this, and scientists were able to get it in an envelope of small lipid nanoparticles. Okay, so pretty much the lipid nanoparticle aids in the transport of mRNA cells. It doesn't have the mRNA specifically in the lipid nanoparticle. Instead, all these lipid nanoparticles, there's about 4 different types in the vaccine, okay? in the Pfizer vaccine and in the Moderna vaccine, from what I remember. We'll talk about the specifics of what lipid nanoparticles they use. There was about 4 different types, and inside of this envelope of lipid nanoparticles is the mRNA. The mRNA does get into your cell membrane and start telling your cell what to do. Now, that's your basic science of the vaccine. This is not like putting a dead or messed up virus inside of you. That's the J&J vaccine. The J&J vaccine use an adenovirus, right? An adenovirus to get that mRNA inside of you. Okay, so that's just the simple science of this thing. You have taken a vaccine literally with the envelope of lipid nanoparticles in you. So it's not like, oh, I'm going to take a vaccine with the RNA of SARS-CoV-2. No, you're taking the RNA from SARS-CoV-2 and you're taking this envelope of so-called lipid nanoparticles. Super important to know. Where does these lipid nanoparticles go? Well, there's been studies that say that they do accumulate in the ovaries, and these aren't even new studies. So all the people talking about, oh, Germ talking some goofy stuff, we don't know what you're talking about. There's been studies for years to say that lipid nanoparticles do indeed, they do actually, they actually do reside in the ovaries, and they can pass the testes barrier. Now, to go into specifics with the testes barrier, okay, lipid nanoparticles, because I'm getting that information from a different study. That study is from nanoparticles in general. It was done in like 2018 on what nanoparticles can do, where do they go. 2018 Journal of Nanomedicine detected that the accumulation of nanoparticles, not just the lipid ones, nanoparticles kind of as a whole, did accumulate in specific locations in rat ovaries. And then there was another part of that article that went as far as to say, much research has shown that nanoparticles can pass through the BTB. Okay, the BTB. All right, no, that's the brain, the blood barrier. No, that's actually the blood testes barrier, okay? So the barrier between your blood and your testicle, this nanoparticle can actually pass through, right? All right, so much research shown that nanoparticles can pass through the BTB and cause changes in sperm morphology and decrease the number of viability of sperm, the viability of sperm. However, the impact varies from species to species and according to different types of nanoparticles. Obvious. Well, there's 4 different types of nanoparticles used in the COVID-19 vaccine. I'm not saying that it passes the testes barrier, but just know that there was a study done that said nanoparticles can. Just saying. One of the nanoparticles in the COVID-19 mRNA vaccine is cholesterol. Oh, super easy. We got cholesterol in our body. No problem there. It's the other nanoparticles that seem disturbing. I want to talk about the PEG lipid nanoparticle. One of 3 or 4 in that envelope of RNA. Okay, there's about 3 or 4. And PEG lipid nanoparticles, and of course, some people are allergic to this. You can look it up. There's already been studies on it way before there was ever an mRNA vaccine, before people were talking about mRNA vaccines. There were people literally allergic to PEGs. PEGs stand for some huge name. The point is that there's a lipid nanoparticle in the mRNA vaccine made out of PEGs, and some people are allergic. Now, question. Raise your hand if they asked you if you were allergic to PEGs before you took a vaccine. No? No one asked? Okay. Well, they don't need to be giving it to you. Alright? That's the biggest key. If they did not ask you if you were allergic to PEGs, or if this is your first time even hearing of a PEG, you're in trouble. You're in trouble to a certain extent. Big problem. Another one of these lipid nanoparticles that make the envelope around the RNA is an ionizable lipid. An ionizable lipid literally has to be ionized in a lab. So there's a lab, and somehow they're able to ionize one of these lipid nanoparticles to get it into your cell's membrane. Remember, the lipid nanoparticles are just to get it into your cell's membrane. What happens is that once it's in the body, we don't really know what happens. We don't know where they go. Do they biodegrade? Where in the world do these lipid nanoparticles go? And we know that some of them accumulate in certain parts of the body. Some of them accumulate in ovaries. Some of them accumulate here, there, I think even their breasts. Okay? Usually wherever the body is putting a lot of lipids, that's where they're accumulating, people. You can look this stuff up, by the way. I'm not just throwing y'all a game just to be throwing y'all a game. I'm saying some of this stuff you gotta look up. Another big part about lipid nanoparticles that a lot of people do not comprehend is that there ain't that many countries or companies creating it. I quote a March 2021 article. Only a few companies that supply NLMP for vaccine makers, including Germany-based Evonik, Merck, KGRA, and Canada-based Accurita. But Chinese companies including Lorei Pharma Group, Semrina, and Casino, and Whalevac. So there's pretty much a mention of about 5 different companies here. And the point is that China was investing in lipid nanoparticles. This article speaks about the companies that hold patents to lipid nanoparticle technology. So you're injecting lipid nanoparticles that only is coming from a very small handful of companies. And they own the patent of this stuff. The stuff that's accumulating in people's ovaries, rats' ovaries, that's a patent. Okay? Where does it go? You got a patented product in your body. Period. Lipid nanoparticles. There you go. I want to talk about a big thing, huge thing. Oh, this was the article about the PEGs, a certain type of lipid nanoparticles that was indeed allergic. Allergies to PEGs. An ingredient in the mRNA lipid nanoparticles is PEGs. They could cause an allergic reaction. 72% had antibodies to PEGs, and 7% of them could have a reaction to them. Wow. So you're taking mRNA and they're saying that 72% of people actually have antibodies to PEGs. Now, last time I checked, an antibody means that your body has an immune response to an ingredient in this vaccine. PEGs, 72% of people have an antibody to PEGs, and not only that, 7% of them will indeed have a reaction. Now, peep the game. I said there was about 3 or 4 different lipid nanoparticles within that envelope over the RNA. Remember, it's an RNA. It's going to go into your cells and tell your body what to do. Okay, good. It could tell your body, oh, produce a bunch of SARS-CoV-2 spike proteins, and then your immune system will know what to do. That's what they're telling us, right? But what is it really telling us what to do? We don't know. That's something for you tonight to think about. I think it's almost Halloween. I won't give out all the horrors of Halloween to you, not yet. I'm not done with lipid nanoparticles, and I think a lot of people don't know enough about lipid nanoparticles. So I think I'm going to throw y'all one more, and then I'll be done with the lipid nanoparticles section of this. One more big experiment, and I want to talk about something Griffin knew about for a while. Okay. It's a drug called OnPattro. OnPattro Particiran. Now, when I did research initially on COVID-19 back in November or December of 2020. 2020 was a big year. March 2020, remind you, was the first lockdown. November, I started really going in on the research, November, December. And December 2020, we released Word of Controversy Podcast, episode 9. Everyone needs to leave this video and watch that. I'll make a few predictions, including the fact that it won't be one vaccine that you gotta take. Probably one of my biggest name to fames now. Anyway, while I was doing research, I learned about the first mRNA drug that was released to the American market. And I know what you're thinking. Griffin, that doesn't make sense. Isn't the COVID-19 intramuscular mRNA vaccine from Merck, BioNTech, and all these people, Pfizer, Moderna, J&J, aren't those the first to use this technology and get released? No. The first to be approved by the FDA with mRNA was back in 2018, I believe. It was a drug called OnPattro. OnPattro is a drug that treats a certain type of disease, super rare disease, I actually believe. It's like ATTR, limosome, something like that. It's a disease called ATTR. Y'all gotta look it up. All right, I don't know too much about that disease, and a lot of people don't even take this drug. But anyway, it came out in 2018. Remember that year, 2018. The first mRNA drug comes out. It's not even a vaccine. It's just a therapeutic drug for a rare disease called ATTR. FDA approves of it. This is an article from drugs.com. Because a lot of y'all don't read. And a lot of y'all don't think I read. Oh, you listen to this person. Oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. Drugs.com. July 14, 2020. Lipid components found in rat breast milk in experiment. Drug did not affect fertility, but large doses did increase embryo mortality while rats were pregnant. Period. Put my name on that article because you ain't know about it. Griffin. Griffin. Drugs.com, 7/14/2020. It's crazy how they start doing these articles right before the vaccine or as the vaccine's getting released. OnPattro, the first mRNA drug, we're already seeing issues. Comes out, and it's funny how they do this. Comes out in 2018, now there's a study. Funny how y'all weren't studying pregnant rats then, but anyway, there was a study, of course, on pregnant rats. Hey, I can't even open this one. That's how deep this one is. This is one you don't get to talk about much. I might get shut down just for this. Why is this not coming up, Griff? Drugs.com, partisan pregnancy and breastfeeding warnings. Administration of this drug or a rodent specific from the female rats weekly, starting 2 weeks prior to mating and continuing throughout organogenesis resulted in no adverse effects on fertility or embryo fetal development. Okay, they always love giving you the good news. However, in a separate study in pregnant rabbits, Lord help us, weekly administration at slightly higher doses resulted in embryo fetal mortality and reduced fetal body weight at the mid and high doses. Doses which were also associated with maternal toxicity in humans due to potential teratogenic risks arising from unbalanced vitamin A level. Okay, they want to give all this other stuff. The point is, U.S. FDA pregnancy category not assigned. The U.S. FDA has amended the pregnancy labeling rule for prescription drug. Okay. I want to know what y'all did. Benefits should outweigh the risk. Oh, not assigned. Comments. Pregnancy should be excluded before treatment initiation. Women of childbearing potential should be encouraged to use effective contraception. For women who intend to become pregnant, some authorities recommend discontinuing this drug. The vitamin A supplementation and ensuring vitamin A levels return to normal before contraception is attempted. For patients who become pregnant while on therapy, some authorities recommend discontinuing therapy and vitamin A supplementation unless there are clinical signals of vitamin A deficiency. So pretty much, I think whatever disease this is, you also got to take some vitamin A stuff. But the point is that, it affects pregnancy. Fetal weight, okay, at higher doses. And we already know that, yes, indeed, there was some lipids that come out of the breast milk of the rats. Benefit should outweigh risk. Going back to the arcodrugs.com, 7/14/2020. Erected in animal milk. No. Lipid components? Yes. Okay, so there is definitely stuff coming out of this milk. There's definitely some stuff coming out of this milk. Y'all don't need to breastfeed these kids. And I think the FDA is just talking about, they just coming out talking about the first 2 days, y'all should probably not breastfeed your kids after you give birth. And I got that somewhere in my notes too. So there has to be a new protocol because this is OnPattro in 2020 and now it's 2022 and we're talking about the mRNA intramuscular COVID-19 vaccine, and yes, we're getting full-blown mRNA coming out of the breast of women. Reuters, July 2021. No evidence for mRNA in breast milk. There's not even the smallest amount of evidence, y'all. This is July 2021. Now in 2022, we're finding full-blown on mRNA coming out the breast milk. Well, ain't that good, Reuters, whatever these fact checkers are? They found lipid components in the first mRNA drug just 1 or 2 years before, and now we got full-blown on mRNA coming out of vaccinated women's breasts. That's the last thing you want. That's the last thing you want coming out of a nipple. I tell you that. Listen, if anything's gonna come out of a nipple, that's the last thing you want coming out. Don't cancel me. Don't cancel me yet. Don't cancel me yet. Okay? I want to go back to some of my old tweets before it's all said and done, but I think we're going to take a quick break. You're listening to Germ Griffin Recordings Archive. We're live on Germ.Griffin. Super important show. Will your infants make it? My IG people, of course, just like World of Controversy, you'll see me just taking a slight break and getting my cameras together. Hopefully they don't die on me. The Black Nobility got me mad at this one. Germ Griffin Recordings Archive, Will Your Infants Survive It? Peace, I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. World of Controversy. No, this is Germ Griffin Recordings Archive. World of Controversy podcast will actually be coming back very soon. Probably season 4, probably coming back within a month. Super excited for that. I actually got Julian Robb in the studio with me today. Super excited he was able to slide through. He was he just some support and everything. So yeah, always good to see him in the studio. He knows his stuff. And you know, we go back and forth. You know, some people just don't comprehend how important this stuff is. So yeah. I said it was gonna be, you know, it was gonna be a good live and stuff, and yeah, I know one of my cameras stopped. Supposedly the SD card is full, so I got like 3 cameras in here. I said I'm gonna make sure I get some video today. The podcast people, y'all are usually good. You hear my beautiful voice, but sometimes the video people, you guys get the short end of the stick. So I got the live going, Germ.Griffin. And I also have my older camera going, testing that out, and I have the Sony camera from Rack here. Okay, so lipid nanoparticles already showed that there was some lipid components coming out of breast milk. Okay, bam. We already know that. There's about 3 or 4 different lipid nanoparticles that are coming from literally less than 4 or 5 companies, all of them patented. We're still not sure about the science of where they go, how they leave the body, if they ever leave the body. We know for sure lipid nanoparticles accumulate in the in the ovaries, and we know for sure that there are some nanoparticles that can not only pass through the brain blood barrier, BBB, but can also pass through the blood testes barrier. So they can go into your testicles. Not saying they're accumulating, but I will say that there are some nanoparticles that can indeed mess up sperm morphology. Now, I gotta toot my own horn. Well, let me go through a little bit more of the science, and then I'll toot my own horn and go to some of my old tweets. And then I'll let y'all go. Alright, so Dr. Victory brought up a really good point. She was on Drew's show, Dr. Drew Asked Drew show I just found out about, and she pulls out this list of everyone this vaccine was not tested on. Now, when I say not tested on, I am referring to the test needed or the test used or the data from the testing that was used in the initial application to get Pfizer's vaccine up and approved for FDA approval and or emergency use. Dr. Victory Kelly, Dr. Kelly, says that pregnant women were not tested. Now, there were some tests on pregnant women, but think about that. That vaccine was up for emergency use without testing pregnant women and without testing lactating women. That was not required. There was some tests on rats, pregnant rats, and the tests were horrible. And some have even said that some of them rats actually did not have, they did not produce children because of that vaccine. Remember that. Pregnant women were not tested. Lactating women were not tested. Children were not tested. People who had and recovered from COVID were not tested. People with underlying autoimmune diseases were not tested. PEG allergy people were not in any of these initial tests. people with PEG allergies. Like I said, there are PEGs in the vaccine for, I believe, Moderna and I believe the Pfizer vaccine. So remind you, we know for sure they're in. We don't know everything that's in the vaccine. PEGs, we know for sure they're in that vaccine. And people with PEGs, there's about 72% of people have antibodies to it, and 7% of those will indeed have a reaction, if I believe introduced with PEGs. They were not tested for the initial application to be approved by the FDA. Pregnant women, lactating women, children. People who had and recovered from COVID. That's a big one. Just think about that. People who had COVID people who had COVID and then recovered from COVID weren't in these studies. Only cats who supposedly never had COVID was in these initial studies. Right. Like I said, Reuters came out and said there was no evidence. Remember, you gotta really listen to how they say it. They be like, no evidence for mRNA in breast milk. No evidence. They're telling y'all they're not doing the studies. Like, when they say there's no evidence, it implies that there wasn't a study done. We didn't have enough money, we didn't have the resources, or we just didn't want to do it. And for a big organization like FDA, Reuters, so why was there no study? Make you wonder. Let's go into it. I'm going to now go back to my old tweets, and I'm going to end this live right on that. Germ Twix is a beautiful, 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 beautiful Twitter account that I run, and every once in a while I release some bangers. Let's talk about it. Prove to me that lipid nanoparticles naturally biodegrade in people's body. I tweeted this in January of this year, January 2022. Where is the proof that lipid nanoparticles, one of the only ingredients in the jab that we know for sure is in the jab, where is the proof that it biodegrades? If you show me the proof, I'll shut up for a while. Where's the proof? There's proof that they accumulate in the ovaries. Where is the proof that they biodegrade? COVID was created. We taken advice from the same people who created it. Now, I tweeted something similar to this in 2021. December 2021. I'm telling y'all, the advice we're getting about the vaccine is from the people who created it. That isn't even questionable. I mean, that's public data. That's just public data. Easily researched. Dr. Ryan Cole. Now, this was last year. October 2021, I believe I said this. Dr. Ryan Cole seen an increase in endometrial cancer. Why the believe the science grifters aren't demanding more peer-reviewed science studies on mRNA vaccine on the effects or correlation to cancer, fertility, sterilization, and birth rates? Endometrial cancer is the cancer that begins in the lining of the womb, the uterus. Lipid nanoparticles accumulate in the ovaries. The mRNA vaccine will lower the birth rate significantly. I ain't never say a lie. On this one, I've never said a lie. There's a doctor named Dr. Ryan Cole literally saying he or she is seeing cancer on the rise in the uterus. Why aren't the believe the science people? Why are they not asking for more science in sterilization, cancer, because of the SARS-CoV-2 vaccine? Why are they not asking for it? And then the last thing I dropped is that it will lower the birth rate. And I know for sure this is a eugenics operation. From the Bill Melinda Gates, from the black nobility, from the Chinese government. You can name it. It doesn't matter. From the UN, it's all of them. The royals, listen, all of them. Bilderberg, you can, I don't care. Listen, the list of the elites are, you know what I mean, they're a bunch of names, but you know what I'm talking about. The Illuminati, this was about lowering the birth rate, period. No doubt. Prove to me, prove to me that they don't biodegrade, that they do, okay. 2 million adverse reports are after taking the COVID-19 vax. There were 2 million adverse reports after taking the COVID vax, and 69% came from women. Now, I tweeted this in October of last year, too, 2021. 69% came from women. Adverse reports include brain tumors, renal failure, spontaneous abortion, fetal death, stillbirth, and onset of COVID-19. The onset of COVID-19 was one of the adverse reports. Now think about that. 69%. Now this was last year. There were 2 million reports of adverse reactions, adverse events. 69% came from women. And spontaneous abortion, fetal death, stillbirth are just some of many. That tweet was last year. I'm going to bring up a new statistic. Since it is a new year, right? Since it is a new year. I got to find it though, Griff. Where is it? I think it says something about out of all... Since the Pfizer documents came out in like April or March, the Pfizer documents did come out. Pfizer's initial application to be approved by the FDA. Those documents were out for the public to look at. And I believe Naomi Wolf, or one of them people over there with Brett Bart and them, and, you know, I'm not all down and brown with them. The dailyclout.io, you can look them up, but they do research on the Pfizer documents. She said about all of the reproductive adverse events, 16% of the 16% of the women adverse reactions were reproductive issues. About 0.046 of the men's adverse reactions were reproductive issues, reproductive problems. You can look this up. About 16% of all the women's adverse reactions were reproduction issues. You can't tell me this is not a eugenics operation. You can't tell me. You can't tell me. And that's dailyclout.io. They reported on it. Super important. Last thing I want to bring up is 2 tweets from me. One, it's clear that the CDC, I retweeted the CDC and told y'all that there was no evidence. The CDC said in September 2021, you should get vaxxed if you trying to get pregnant. The CDC said you should get vaxxed if you're trying to get pregnant. No evidence to prove vax causes fertility issues in men or women. Yeah, I retweeted it and said, there you go. No evidence at all. That's it. Listen to their wording. The CDC says you should get vaxxed if you're trying to get pregnant. This is a eugenics operation from the top down. No evidence to prove the vax causes fertility issues in men or women. Well, I bet there's no evidence because y'all did not do the research. And when Pfizer did the research, we couldn't look at it. But now that we can look at it, we're seeing that, yes. there were some fertility issues. About 16% of the adverse reactions were reproduction problems. Fetuses can't even be born in the placenta. We got spontaneous abortion popping off. Stillbirths and more. And now we got kids sucking the nipple of their mothers with full-blown mRNA coming out. The last tweet I tweeted that I want to talk about was a little hopeful. September 19th, 2021, I said, COVID cannot replicate in an environment with bitter cola. It affects the pH of the throat. Chewing bitter cola. Rob, you got some bitter cola on you? Chewing this nut right here. I know some of y'all can't see it if you're listening to me. I'm almost done. I've been chewing this stuff for some years now. I put a lot of people on. A lot of people have good results. And you just chew it. You just crack it open. Chew it. I recommend about 15 minutes. What's in your throat and mouth cannot survive. There is no virus. I don't think there's too many viruses or bacteria, and definitely not COVID-19, that can survive on a throat with this type of pH. This is very bitter. Here go, Rob. Get you some of this. Bitter cola, super important, because I honestly believe that the virus itself messes with fertility. I don't think it's just the vaccine. Try not to get the virus. Definitely don't take the vaccine. If you've taken the vaccine, I'll be praying for you. I pray for the vaccinated often. With that being said, this is a eugenics operation. This will lower the birth rate. We're probably gonna see it around 5-year point after 2021. So probably around 2026 we'll see way lower birth rates. And watch Utopia. Utopia got a lot of cursing in it, but watch that UK version. I'm trying to get through the US version. I got through season 1. Super important. With that being said, be conscious, be smart. Chew bitter cola, take some herbs, have a good day, people. Pray to God. I'll be here. Send your questions. Someone asked me, where do you get your sources from? I think Neil asked me that. Shout out to Neil from the Green Party. Neil asked me, when you expose something on your podcast, do you have multiple confirming sources that your facts are true? No, not all the time. Some of them is just one article, and then later on it gets confirmed by other stuff. So they're all not confirming themselves. Critical thinking confirms it. A lot of these articles, but some of them do confirm. So not all of them, but some. A second question is, how do you determine the qualifications of your informational sources? The qualifications I look for is if they're funded by the elites or if they are not funded by the elites. Okay, super important. So sometimes you gotta eat the meat, spit the bone, and sometimes you gotta look at where your information is coming from, where is it funded. So a lot of articles I mentioned today are from actual scientists. Some of them may have got funded indirectly from the elites, but to be clear, it's not come from Bill and Gates Foundation. Breitbart, that's why I didn't go into all that Breitbart information about they go in, if you really want to get into the eugenics study, they go in. But I don't use all their data because it's Breitbart and we already know. The War Room, I think that's the podcast over there. I don't even know if it's called Breitbart anymore. So I don't use that as much. I use science studies, and I use critical thinking. So that's where I'm coming from. I'm not taking words from any crazy person. I'm taking from the experts. The experts are telling y'all the fact is we are seeing mRNA coming out. The fact is we see lipid nanoparticles, lipid components coming out of rat's milk, even in OnPattro. Period. Y'all have a good day. Germ Griffin recording his archive. You can listen to it on Spotify. I don't think we're on. I don't think my podcast is on everywhere. Someone asked me, are the Jews the people of God in Israel? That's an episode for another day. I'm not even kind of getting to that. That was a good one. Almost tripped me up if I were to get one of that. In fact, me just mentioning the Jews may get me in trouble because, once you mention them, you're anti-Semitic and stuff. More power. Listen, keep your heads up. My name is Brother Germ Griffin. We're the Controversy Podcast. Season 4 is coming soon. Super excited. And bet you guys have a good, fantastic day. Peace. I just do Germ Griffin Recordings Archive when we're on break. I don't even feel like I can do